One Piece as a story has various things that fans and critics alike consider strengths. A true fan would know and would say everything would qualify as that, but typically it's world building and characters that dominates that answer. That's weird in itself because world building and the makings of a good character are two of the more misunderstood topics and could regularly be the cause for debate. Do you prefer your characters consistent? With progression, linear? I believe a good character can be presented in different ways, as it could be subjective, as sometimes a character is good because he or she is relatable to you. For example, Ace. I personally relate to Portgas the Ace, and in numerous ways that I won't get into right now, but others despise Ace and denounce his character really due to one moment in the story. Granted, it's a huge moment, but perspective matters, and the same goes for the focus of our character assessment today. Garp. I've always had my personal buckets for a good character, which included motivations, development, connections, strengths, weaknesses, and personality. This time I decided to step out my own comfort zone of what I've determined as a good character based on these categories, and will be using a different template for this video. I came across an article the other day by Chuck Wednig, and he's a comic book author, a writer, a screenwriter, a blogger, etc. And he had a template or 25 things in which he listed which leads to a great character. It was intriguing and it led to various conversations which I mentally had with myself, and I tried to incorporate not only One Piece characters but other characters in this template, and it led to interesting conclusions. So based on that, with this template today, we'll assess Garp and break him down via some of these categories, not all, to get a better understanding as to why I personally think he could be the best character in One Piece. I know that's a lofty goal, but there's a lot there to go off of. The link to the article will be in the description box down below, but first, if this is the type of content that you like and you enjoy, drop a like and let me know as well, because that does help the video and that lets me know you would want more content like this. And also leave your thoughts at this moment, pause the video, leave your thoughts on Garp before watching the video, and I would like to know your thoughts as well after the fact. Maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't. I would like to know your raw thoughts before watching the video. How do you feel about Garp as a character? Or you can even list where you rank him in terms of One Piece characters. But without further ado, let's get to it. Personality is essential in any great character, and the simplest way to break down personality in a character in a novel, manga, movie, anime is to determine whether or not a character and their dialogue and actions exist solely for the sake of the plot, or do they actually think and are written to impact the story and the reader, rather than as a mechanism to advance the narrative. Garp absolutely fits the bill with his personality, as every time he's shown on screen, from either being too loud and the signature smile and the laughter, it constantly pops off the page and is somewhat infectious. He also does weird things, which obviously isn't just to progress the narrative forward or a plot device. It comes off as genuine, and you judge him as a real person by saying, well, that's just Garp being Garp. For example, after Garp approached the Straw Hats after the events at Enies Lobby, that's when Kobe and Luffy had their quick squabble, and Squabble is exaggerating it because he got owned by Luffy. He not only revealed Luffy's father and then immediately regretted it, he told Luffy he wouldn't be capturing him that day. Of course, fast forward to the Straw Hats and their actual departure, Garp then changes his mind and decides to capture Luffy because, well, things happened. He asks Luffy to drown and die. This is also consistent because due to what Garp is, in which he is a Marine, and shows that his occupation or livelihood has bled into his personality. A Marine is who he is now, not what he does, which ties well into the other categories which defines his character. It could also be viewed as another lesson for Luffy, as he referred to the crew as kids, and again, the consistency of always training and preparing Luffy to be the best that he can be. For a character, this is how he or she impacts their destiny. Are they active or passive? Is this character making waves or waiting and searching for a way to avoid or survive this wave? Active defines Garp's entire existence in the story. Garp actively decided to chase after the Pirate King and became one of his main adversaries. Garp actively decided not to straight up retire and train the future of the Marines, and is actively deciding and impacting the future of the Marines and the One Piece world by doing this. Not to mention escorting several members of the royal families to the Reverie shows the impact and the activity of Garp, and several of Garp's activities predates the story or the start of the actual storyline, the timeline that we know of, from Luffy's journey, his quote-unquote capture of Roger, to his, spoiler alert for the anime onlys, defeat of the Rocks Pirates. Garp is now known as the hero of the Marines and has always been a catalyst, and that has continued throughout the story. This is a unique instance as we have never heard Garp's direct motivations, but rather we can infer them from his actions. One of the more blatant motivations was to capture the Pirate King, Gold Roger, which was shown when he went as far as to decline the title of Admiral. Doing this, he could move around how he wanted to and be a bit more flexible while having less obligations. Granted, that was not the only motivation for declining the position, as he also did not want to work directly under the Celestial Dragons, and the motivation of the Celestial Dragons might honestly be slightly more interesting and important to his overall character, as the capture of Roger and his motivation to rid the world of pirates, that's straightforward in nature. He's a Marine and a hero of justice, so taking down the strongest pirate seems in line with his character. The takedown of the Celestial Dragons, though, that presents slightly bit more of a challenge due to the simple fact that he's a Marine and the Marines exist to serve the Celestial Dragons. Garp's disdain for the Celestial Dragons were explained through his actions of not wanting to discuss probably his biggest accomplishment of his career, but also his interaction with Stelly. Stelly asks Garp, the fool that he is, to help him become a Celestial Dragon, and Garp replied by calling them scumbags. I'm sure Garp's deep motivations could be connected to the downfall of the Celestial Dragons, but that is truly a mystery. For right now, we know for a fact he despises them. Garp's motivations also revolved around making Luffy and Ace powerful Marines and steering them on the correct path. Granted, this didn't pan out, but do you question that motivation due to leaving these kids in the care of bandits? This is pretty self-explanatory, but for Garp, this is yet another mystery. I mean, the fear could formulate itself through actions as well, such as the reluctance to discuss the takedown of the Rocks Pirates. Did Garp have this intense motivation to chase Roger due to the fear of him being one of the many things to catapult Roger to greatness? Essentially, he helped Roger defeat Sebek. How much did that help Roger's growth? Fear also existed amongst Garp's motivation to make Luffy and Ace Marines, as he saw this fear come to pass at Ace's execution. The purpose of adamantly pushing the boys towards the Marines was to prevent that exact scenario from playing out, one in which he would have to choose between who he was as a Marine and actual family. The fear did indeed manifest itself and led to several character-defining moments, accepting Luffy's punch to get through to Ace, crying on a scaffold next to Ace, pleading that he didn't want this situation to occur, also downright threatening for all intents and purposes a superior in the Kainu after Ace's death. Fear was prevalent in defining Garp as a character. This is somewhat accompanied by fear, but the internal conflict with Garp runs a bit deeper and it has multiple branches. The first conflict exists due to him being a Marine and working for the Celestial Dragons, but hating them in turn. The next conflict is being a Marine and having his son be the world's most dangerous criminal. The conflict of the boys, Ace and Luffy, being pirates but still loving them as his grandchildren. The most notable internal conflict that showed itself in Marineford was him battling against himself as his grandson was about to be executed and all he could do was watch. At that moment, his entire legacy was not only on the line, but his family. What do you choose? What is the correct decision? This internal conflict leads to consequential dialogue as it could be relatable. Most say that you always choose family over work, but as mentioned before, being a Marine was a way of life for Garp. Also, how did him being a D affect his internal struggle? How does this affect his internal struggle with serving the Celestial Dragons? Garp is as well connected as any character in One Piece, save Doflamingo, but even then he could trump the Heavenly Demon. I mean, the grandfather of the main character, the father of the world's most dangerous man, his position as the hero of the Marines, and connection to the current Marines, such as Sengoku and Kong. These connections and relationships offers so much complexity. I mean, look at Luffy being the main character and adversary of the world government of whom Garp works for, so obviously that presents conflict. The connection that's most interesting though that has not been explored is probably the one to Dragon. He's the world's most wanted man. How does Garp feel about Dragon's goals? Granted, Garp also hates the Celestial Dragons, but he can't approve of Dragon's methods. If Dragon accomplishes his goal though, which is to rid the world of these Celestial Dragons, it would, I suppose, be good in Garp's eyes. However, they are protected by the Marines. So, in essence, for Dragon to accomplish his goal, he has to go through his father, even though he probably approves of the end goal. Either way, he has to go through his father and the organization to accomplish it because the Marines are protecting the Celestial Dragons. The epitome of this world would be Garp as a contradiction. I can't think of a character that fits the bill more than Garp here due to his contradiction of his occupation based on his lineage. To clarify, I've altered how I felt about Garp and him working for the Marines a bit because he's not solely a contradiction due to him being a D. However, the Ds have been built up as the natural enemy of the gods and he works for them. So it's complex in nature, but it's also nuanced because he hates them, but not enough to subject himself to the ways of his son from what we know. Garp is shown in personalities much like Luffy, but as a Marine. He seems to be a bit more complex in nature. I mean, this could have been developed over time, but in a nutshell, Garp's existence presents several issues for the pirates, Marines, Revolutionaries, and Celestial Dragons alike. I mean, the pirates due to him being the strongest Marine and the symbol for even more Marines. The Marines because he's generally problematic and does what he wants, and that's due to what he's accomplished and who he is. The Revolutionaries, as he's the central figure who took down Zebek, who had similar beliefs and ideals to his son Dragon, and the Celestial Dragons simply because he's a D. It was stated, however, that the Celestial Dragons would have been gotten rid of him, but his influence and accomplishments are just too much to ignore. With Garp, he is shrouded in mystery even though we know so much about him. I mean, as mentioned before, his direct motivations and how he got them are unknown. His current relations with his son, who is the world's most dangerous man, is unknown, as well as Dragon's mother. We don't know who she is. The main conflict of him being a part of the D clan and how he came to terms with becoming a Marine to affect change has not been explored as well. We still have yet to see how Luffy feels about Garp or their interaction and the nature of it since Ace died. The true nature of Roger's and Garp's relationship also has not been explored. We've seen bits and pieces of it, but we haven't gotten to the crux or the beginning of this relationship. With Garp, there lies several mysteries. Garp has been everywhere on the emotional spectrum, as we have seen him in a wide array of moments in which his personality shone through, but it authenticated his character. His intent on keeping his rock's accomplishment a secret due to saving the Celestial Dragons and their slaves mean he holds a certain level of pride in his opposition of the actions of the Celestial Dragons. His interactions with Roger when asked to save young Ace showed conflict but empathy in a man, but also a boy who was going to die due to the sins of his father. His internal conflict and emotions, as mentioned when Ace was on the execution scaffold. Do you save your grandson and throw away your legacy? Do you let him die and ultimately impact not only yourself, but your other grandson who looks up to him forever? Did you fail your friend in Roger because Ace died while you were in the vicinity? He reacted to all of this and shed tears due to the conflict. He threatened to kill Akainu. Greeting the dawn and knowing the consequences of his actions would lead to others close to him almost hating him for not saving someone who they deemed family. He accepted all of this. Garp, even through all of this, isn't necessarily an emotional roller coaster, because as shown when Rocks was initially mentioned, and now knowing their threat level, Garp shouldn't have been laughing, but that's what he did. He has the emotional range to react as a normal person would, and that adds to his character. That's part of the reason why we love him, the complexity of it. Okay, first off, the consistency in Garp's character is refreshing, as throughout everything he wants to be a great Marine through and through. Attempting to inspire his grandsons to become Marines, seeing special traits in Kobe and Helmeppo to personally train them into being strong Marines, escorting royals and offering his name and influence to the Reverie, maintains his stance as a true Marine and the greatest Marine ever. I mean, wavering at Marineford made him human, which added to his resolve. Through it all, he did remain strong and gave an inch because Luffy was family, Ace was family. Should he have done more? I mean, that's up for debate, but his actions are consistent with his character motivation. Garp's room to grow isn't as looming due to how much older of a character he is and the unknown of his personal history. Was he always willing to fight alongside pirates? Was he always motivated to become a great Marine, even growing up in Great Terminal, which has produced the worst of the worst criminals? Garp, Luffy, Ace, Sabo. This mystery inherently gives his character more room for growth. The aesthetic of Garp works for the One Piece story. A tall, muscular build, a goatee, powerful presence. His aesthetic is absolutely consistent with him being a hero of the Marines and heralded as one of the strongest One Piece characters ever. Now, what does you mean? You means how relatable is this character? Again, the main moment in which a lot of people questioned Garp was Ace's death. People questioned whether or not Garp should have done more. They questioned his character. They questioned him overall because he ultimately let his grandson die. But due to him wavering, these moments of weakness as a Marine, this led to more people actually loving Garp as a character because it felt real. Going between what you do or who you were and family was ultimately a very difficult decision. Also, people sided with Garp a bit more as time went on because Garp warned Luffy and Ace about this type of thing. And people felt like Ace should suffer the consequences because he was his own man and he made his own decisions. But again, through all of these things, Garp was heralded as an amazing character because of these complexities and this conflict. This made us love him even more. While some hated his actions, you had to respect the process he went through to get to where he got to. There are some more ways in which we can define a great character, but we'll save that for a, true character analysis, because this was just a character breakdown and why I think Garp could be the greatest One Piece character of all time. Let me know what you think. What were your thoughts on Garp? I mean, you put your thoughts initially. What are your thoughts now? Would you like me to break down another character like this using these categories? This is actually pretty fun, just going through all these categories and trying to pull moments from the story and connect them to this character. So leave your thoughts below. How did you like this? Did you enjoy it? Of course, drop a like. That lets me know that you did. Subscribe. That lets me know you liked it even more if you're not subscribed already. If you'd like to vote on videos like this, check out the Patreon below, because you can decide, I guess, the character that comes next, right? Again, like the video if you did. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.